Hello and welcome to Progress Videos. Today we're going to be talking about Mass Effect. Now, not just the third one, which everyone knows had a terrible ending, but the series as a whole and the progression from the first to the last one. Now, the first one, everyone thought that the story was better, which I agree. The gameplay was the worst, and well, in terms of like FPS, well, it was not FPS, but like shooter game. So Mass Effect 2 improved that, but then added the squad sort of options, and the story got a bit worse. And then Mass Effect 3, the story got really bad. But then this is an issue with a lot of games at the moment, which it's quite difficult to think of how to call it, but I call it I don't even know what I call it, but like the FPS modernization, the FPSization, or Call of Dutyization, which a lot of people don't actually know about. But even though it's not, Mass Effect has not become an FPS, it probably will now because they want loads of money, and they want to try and maybe compete with Call of Duty and Battlefield. But the way that this sort of like over commercialization of Mass Effect, it's removed the story from being the important thing, and they've changed it to being basically just a shooter game. And that's one of the main issues with Mass Effect 3. Now, I could talk about the ending, but everyone knows everyone's opinion about the ending, and I'll talk about my issues with Mass Effect 3 in a different video. But the main things, progression from 2 to 3, is that the story's got even worse, and the gameplay mechanics have got better. Now, saying the story's got worse is partially true, but it had a good concept, but then they decided to rush the ending, obviously. Really trying to avoid talking about the end now, but so that's the progression throughout the series, and I think it's important to see how they changed each game and how they got worse, but also the choice system, how in each game it made sense, like the previous choice in the previous game. But see, I played in a really weird order. I first got Mass Effect 2 and got into that, got quite near the end. Then I was given a copy of Mass Effect, the first game, and started playing that, got a bit stuck. I was overcomplicating the issue, really. And then I got the third game when it came out, like with all the pre-order stuff, but I had problems with that, which I'll explain in my Mass Effect review video, which will be coming up soon. So I got Mass Effect 3 last, but I finished Mass Effect 3 first, then Mass Effect 2, and then Mass Effect 1, or Mass Effect. And for me, I didn't have any other choice from previous games, but I can see how they would make sense, as I had all the default ones, and I wouldn't have chosen some of the certain things, so it was quite annoying, like fighting the Rachni Queen. Well, actually that made sense because the Rachni Queen I was going to kill anyway, but I would have saved the council at the end of this first game. So in the second game, it would have ended up being I would have spoken to them. But then I went back. I realised that you don't get anything from that actually. They're also, if you play I've known people that play the first game and then they carried it over to the second game and using the feature to carry it over. Then they moved on to the third game, and they said that the choices they made in the early games had pretty much no significance in the last game. And even in the second game, there aren't many choices. There aren't many choices in the first game that carry over. They missed an opportunity to do a lot of things then. But a good thing about it was how each game had a different setup, basically. So the first game was very oriented to the Citadel, and you could explore a lot of that. Most of the missions were there, and I remember doing the doctor's lab, where you can do the sort of glitch thing to get the achievement for to make loads of money. which I thought was really good. And then second game was slightly weird because the Citadel wasn't featured as much, but it was still there. It was still quite significant. But I liked how Omega and Ilium were sort of hub worlds, and I thought Omega was a really good place to explore and do missions. And I always had a lot of fun there, so that's why I always like starting a new game, playing through a bit of Omega. Don't normally get to Ilium because I get bored by then because I've played so many times. But then it was still, even when you get to Ilium, it's still quite fun because of the little skyscrapers. It's sort of like Coruscant from Star Wars. And in the third game, the Citadel was the only hub world, which was not that good because in the previous games you've had, even like when you go to a mission on the first 3 worlds, I think Feros and Naviria, I thought they were really good, really well done. Like sort of like hub worlds, but they weren't like the ones in Mass Effect 2. But my favourite part, I think, throughout the whole game, every single game, my favourite part is what nobody else would probably say, is in Naviria. I loved the whole mission from beginning to end, all the side missions, all the intrigue, all the sort of corporate espionage and stuff like that. And that's the point. From that point is when I decided to stick to the game and complete it. So going back to Mass Effect 3 with the Citadel. Now the hub world was less important in this game, but I also thought that elements of it were very well done. How the progression from the start of the game when you first get there to the end, with all the refugees coming in, like things moving around, unlocking new areas, and then when the Cerberus attack, there's a lot of destroyed scenery and inaccessible places, and it looks really well done. And I really like that about the Citadel in Mass Effect 3. So the progression from the first game to the last game can be used to I guess essentially guess what's going to be coming up in future Mass Effect titles. Now, unfortunately, the way BioWare are going with sort of the commercialization of the series and how they care more about the money than the story, which if I was in the position, to be honest, I probably would as well, because the money's very important. But the story, for me, essentially games aren't really a game. They're not really a game to play. They're more of a storytelling device that I can use and learn techniques from, and basically enjoy the story essentially. And Mass Effect will probably end up going to the same route of Call of Duty. So, well, I'm going to do another video about this, about the Call of Duty-ization. Still don't know the word. If you've got an idea for the word, post, comment, and we'll decide. We'll decide, make that the de facto word. So, they basically using the example of Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 as Exhibit A, essentially. Well, maybe Exhibit D if you count the first 3 Mass Effects I've previously talked about. So Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 had improved gameplay, had a really good Spec Ops mode, which I'll talk about in a different video, because that was my favourite part of Call of Duty essentially. Multiplayer, which we're going to talk about actually, because we can talk about that in how Mass Effect 3 multiplayer was made. Multiplayer, everyone played. That was the key point of the game, and the story, the campaign, was completely terrible. Now, I have fun playing through it, as in running around, shooting bad guys, jumping on ladders, that I play to music to make a good scene. That was it. The story ended really badly, and the main villain just disappeared. He was there for a little bit. They tried to hunt him down a couple of locations, and neither location worked. And that's pretty much it. So a lot of games have followed that structure, I guess. The main important games to look at or it's not really a game, it's a series of games. It's every single Call of Duty game from Modern Warfare 2. Yeah, Modern Warfare 2, because the first Modern Warfare game was okay, and World at War was pretty good, actually. So from after Modern Warfare 2, since then, every single Call of Duty game has essentially been a copy. We've improved things, but I didn't play that much multiplayer from the games, but the way I see it, that the perk system, and I don't want to talk about the prestige system because I don't really have an opinion on it. Well, I do, but I don't want to talk about it now. But the way the perk system was set up was pretty well done in Modern Warfare 2, and I think they sort of ruined it a bit in Black Ops. Then they improved it in Modern Warfare 3, I think, maybe. Yeah, that's right. Then Black Ops 2, it was not very good, but the point is they haven't improved it dramatically since Modern Warfare 2. So the story's obviously been terrible since. The multiplayer hasn't improved, but it's become a really popular game. Everyone's buying it, everyone's playing it. Who makes the game, Activision, I think, at the moment, and it keeps changing. Because it's a really sort of ruthless business, and they keep firing companies, people going out of jobs, and it's a really terrible thing that's happening. But the way I see it is that essentially they don't care about anything but making money, which everyone obviously cares about. But the way they seem to have forfeit the franchise to make money. It's happening in a lot of video games now. On this channel, I'm going to do hopefully a feature, I guess, where I'm going to go through games that have done this essentially. So we're talking about Mass Effect 3 pretty much now, I guess. We're talking about Gears of War 3. There's a lot more as well. Halo 4, say at least. So if you've got any ideas or any games you want me to talk about in aspect of this Call of Duty slash FPSization, then post a comment and I'll read through them and see what you think. So the Call of Duty-esque aspect has appeared in Mass Effect 3, even though it's not a first-person shooter. It's still taken a lot out of the story and put a lot into the gameplay. I don't mean the gameplay as in the cool features like the new mod system and everything, but the shooting aspect. They brought grenades back from the first game, but not in a good way. So in the first game you had grenades where you can modify them, change them, use them in different scenarios. Like when you fought on Feros, the Thorians, husk-like things. The grenades essentially, or was it? Yeah, the grenades knocked them out, but didn't kill them. Or I think it did kill them, but it knocked out the ones that hadn't completely turned, so they could be saved, which was a really good thing to do because it added an extra challenge to the game as well as to survive and finish the mission. It also had this option of this sort of Paragon Renegade option, but it was more morally grey, I guess, because it's so hard to talk about if there's a degree of what's right and wrong in terms of something's either right or it's wrong. And if you're trying to save all these people and you get one or two that you fail on saving, then I'm not sure how they would sort of put that. Would they give you less Paragon points or whatever? They weren't really clear about that, but it was still a good concept. But so Mass Effect 3, they brought grenades back. They weren't very good. They were just there so for me at least, they were just there as a last resort. After I fired all my bullets, nothing was working on a kind of Atlas or something to throw a grenade, and it takes a little bit of damage, but not that much. It's not that good. And so the other major thing, Mass Effect 3, different from the first games, and that's a good indication of what's to come, is the multiplayer. Now, multiplayer Mass Effect 3